Learn stories of success, avoid struggles they've met. Doctors of all kind come together to help you shine. So sit back, take it in, and integrate what you've been given on a doctorsperspective.net.
Minisode 66. I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's going to be a little more introspective based on your decade of life, but it should hit home for the 2021. We've had COVID for a year now, maybe another 5 or 6 months when you're making decisions to travel, vaccine or not, and still wearing a mask, but trying to get business back in order. So these will be a good questions to start asking yourself while we're still on break and trying to figure out what to do. And before we jump in, if you've ever been curious about how to use chopsticks, boom, I got a guide for you. 16 different ways you can hold them. Now you can look awesome at the next Chinese buffet or sushi restaurant. It's doctorsperspective.net/chopsticks with an S at the end. Of course, that correlates with the doing business in China or weddings in China book. So if you're interested in different cultures, that could be a fun book for you to read. It's a quick read. It's not very expensive at all, but it's jam-packed with information that you to be more culturally diverse and gain face. And last self-promo, doctorsperspective.net/all links. This has everything you can imagine. All the doctor series as I've done in the past, the top 10 list of each year, the book links, the coloring book, the one sheets, free chapters, anything and everything that you would want to know is on all links. Okay, today is Gordon MacDonald. I guess he was a pastor for a long time, and he's famous for writing questions we ask at each decade. And so let's just jump in. Teenagers, most of us have kids. What they're asking is, who am I and who am I becoming? When you're in your 20s, what am I going to do with my life and with whom? So this is, do I go to school or not? What's my career going to be? Should I get married? Is this the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? The 30s. Now that I have all these responsibilities and obligations, how do I manage all these priorities, right? Probably got kids, a mortgage, maybe you bought a new car and a boat. Maybe you're not financially responsible. Maybe you are. But what do you do with all these? How do you manage all that and still be like, I have time for me. I still have things that I want to do. I want to get in shape. I want to do this. I want to do that. How do you do all that together? Now, once you hit your 40s, you've been doing things for a while. You got 15 to 20 years experience in your career. You're asking yourself, am I a success or a failure? Now, that's an interesting one because you can look at your personal life or your business life. One of our past guests, he had a $40 million business, but he's looking back and he's like, man, my marriage was almost on the rocks. I didn't treat my kids like I needed to. It was all about that money. And so in one instance, he was successful, but in another instance, he was failing. So what's your priorities in there, you know? Okay, so when you're in your 50s, you're moving into the second half of life. Who is this younger generation that wants me out of the way? And how do I cope with the disappointments in my life? Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, when you're in your mid-50s, some people look at you as the old dog, stuck in their ways, doesn't want to learn new things. But what do the young people bring to the table? You know, what's this Instagram and TikTok? What is all that? We don't need that in my practice. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. And then, of course, there's disappointments in life. You know, maybe you did have a divorce. Maybe you did a couple of bad investments and you start comparing yourself to your buddies and you're like, man, golly, I really made some bad decisions. I'm not financially where I need to be. I'm going to have to work longer than I expected. Maybe you never took those trips that you wanted to and now your health is getting bad. Maybe you should have went to the gym the last 20 years instead of just watching TV and sports all the time. Some tough questions there. Now, if you're in your 60s, you start asking, how much longer can I do what defines me or do I change? Right? You're about 62. You like what you're doing, but at the same time, you want to retire. Financially, can you do it? But more importantly, if I'm not a dentist, if I'm not an optometrist anymore, doing that every day, what am I? Am I a golfer? Am I a world traveler? Am I a great grandpa? A great grandma? What are you? Can you handle not working? Do you need to go down to twice a week just to kind of still have something to do and something that you know you're good at for all these years? Some tough questions there. Do you want to retire? When you're in your 70s, the question is, how do I live with loss? Wow. You know, I'm in my late 30s and I'm already finding people dying of cancer or their mom and dad are starting to die. And at some point in the 70s, it's going to stop being your parents, of course. They're going to be long gone. It's going to be your buddies, guys you went to high school with, your kid, your best friends. They're all going to start dying. And you're going to start becoming more and more alone or having to find new people. But anyway, there's a lot of loss. You might not be on the greatest of health. And so, you know, man, my years are numbered. And you start having those reflections. So that's can we think about that now so that when we get to our 70s, we know, or at least we have a plan on how to deal with these things. 80s. Does anyone remember who I once was? Can anyone remember? Yeah, I've thought of that before. I see old people and, they're walking slow and they're not all cognitively like they used to be. And I'm like, they all had a story. They were all young once, right? They were in their 20s. They were partying, having fun, trying to have a career and everything. Were they a great physicist? Did they invent the surgery that is the gold standard now? Who remembers that? All their peers may have been passed away by now. The young people take it for granted like it's always been there. And it's like, no, I created it. So will they remember? Does anyone remember? You're looking at funeral stuff here. And then the final question, and this can happen at any point, maybe something that we consider. Nobody likes to think about it, but it's a good way to reevaluate your priorities in life sometimes and make sure you're on the right track. But what happens when I die? How are we actually touching those next to us? Some people say that your funeral attendance shows you the type of life that you led. I don't know if I agree with that completely, but I would say, what are the stories that they're telling? Were you just this great guy, great girl who people just cherish and are really going to miss? Are you someone that had a rocky past? And so now where are we with that? But that's the nice thing is, if you're hearing this episode, you can Google this guy, of course, learn more about all those questions in way more detail than I just gave. But we can always adjust what we're doing and who we're approaching and who we're mentoring and how we're treating our family and friends now so that we don't have those regrets in the past. So things to ponder for 2021. Show notes, transcript can be found at adoctorsperspective.net/M66.